All right. So what's up? This is the first podcast with Darth and Luigi over from KetoGains. I'm the superhero maker, Preisendorf. I like keto, and I'm going to let him introduce himself. And he's been in for keto for 15 years now, and that's incredible. That's the longest I know anyone's been in so far. So fire away, brother.
Hi, I'm Luis Villasenor from Mexico. As Craig said, I've been doing keto for almost 15 years now. I run the KetoGains board on Reddit, on Facebook, everywhere you see KetoGains is mostly run by me or some of the people I've trained or coached or had very interactions with. So let's start this up.
Yeah. So, I mean, for everyone else, what KetoGains is Ryan Lowry introduced me to this group, and ever since then, it's made my life a lot easier. So as a coach, I have a lot of tools in my pocket. I don't put everyone in keto. I attempt to put everyone in keto at first. Yeah, if they're ready to go for it, if that's their decision. Most of my clients now contact me wanting to do that, so I don't have to really pick and choose much. But what it is it's like the keto blueprint. I mean, keto clarity book from Jimmy Moore on the internet. It's just a live interactive page that, goes beyond what Keto Clarity did, because Keto Clarity is the basics. So the nice thing is I can get all my clients on or potential clients on and get the basic questions answered very wonderfully in a very positive manner, instead of like the old school forums where they're just bashing on each other. And if it's like, well, if I'm right, no one else is even close to right. And so they don't have that mentality at all. So it's been fantastic. And yeah, you just go join that group and just fire your questions off, and you'll get a positive response for everyone. So that's kind of what I got from there. So yeah.
Well, KetoGains was made precisely for trying to get all the raw science out of the question. Like a little bit of introduction. I started keto about 15 years ago. By reading Lyle McDonald's book and reading on all style bodybuilding forums and everything like we talked before. And usually, as you say, it's filled with pro science. And if you eat 1 gram more of protein, you're going to get ketosis, or this usual
there's a million.
Bad science.
There's like, don't eat nuts. You can't have cacao powder. This might kick you out of keto. This might kick you out of keto. BCAAs might kick. We're going to cover that. But like you're saying, it's designed to get rid of all that monotonous crap.
Exactly. There's a lot of misinformation on what it started off just like you said, a blueprint. Everything that we know that is based on real science, like all the excerpts from real books on science and everything, the tidbits that work for us.
Yeah.
So we started as like a little Wikipedia of keto, and it's blown up to a more like a forum, questions and experiences, training and everything. But yeah, as you say, it's more geared toward advanced users. Of course, everyone is welcome. And also we are very geared toward strength training, but there we have endurance athletes. We have people who run, who do marathons, who swim. But you will find the majority of people on the board more interested in aesthetics and strength training overall.
Yep. Awesome. And we're talking from powerlifters to competitive bikini or athlete or bodybuilder, so kind of everything along those lines. And now a lot of the MMA guys that I brought over as well. So
exactly. I myself practice a little bit of what some might call power building, which is a mix between the classic bodybuilding, but with powerlifting. So I train for both aesthetics and strength.
Yeah, awesome. So,
yeah,
that's what I do with a lot of my guys too as well. Just a lot of, and I hate to use the word functional, but functional stuff for their sport, everyday life. So
exactly.
All right, so we have a lot of questions. So I opened up again today, so we got like 18 more.
Okay, yeah.
Just so y'all know, we did this all yesterday, and we had a wonderful time, and it was just between him and I. So it didn't get recorded. It was both our faults. So it's just we suck at the first one. So we get a warm up, and we're coming back at you today. We had like probably 30 questions, and then another 17 a day. So my opinion is we should probably cut this at an hour to keep people's attention spans. and then we'll do another one Wednesday. Like we talked.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
The first questions that we had on Reddit were like, I think we can tackle this very quickly, about being natural and bodybuilders. So like quickly is, I've been training for over 20 years, Craig for over 8, you said?
15. Yeah.
15, well, yeah. So in regards to being natural, this is a work of training for a lot of time, at least 5 days a week. So let's not get confused. We have not been training for 1 year or 2 years. If you see someone with a very well built physique that has been training for 8 months, well, probably he has used a shortcut. But well, for a guy who's been training for over 10 years, I don't think so. And also, like, you have to define what can be achieved naturally. I think my physique and Craig's physique is like an average physique for someone who has been trained a very long time and very heavy. So, well, you can put our status in any fat-free mass calculator, and you will see that the results are very well within the natural realm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not walking around at like 250, and even at 12% body fat, like I can get there fat, but at the same time, so it brings up a very interesting point, and I love this topic because I'm very pro testosterone replacement therapy. So I got tested in the Marine Corps when I was just 17 years old, and my numbers came in at 250. So technically I'm normal, right? 250 is nowhere near where I need to be. And then, the Marine Corps circumstances wasn't great. Coming out of it wasn't great. Going into bodybuilding, I got on testosterone to normalize my values. And it's interesting because the ranges can vary between 200 and 1200. And you think there's a difference between it being at 200 or 1200? Well, fuck yeah, there's a huge difference of being at 1200. And so if you get everything in line, and what he's saying is people think of it as a supplement to get them where they're going, but that's not even close, because there's I want to say there's a statistic out there, 40% of people in the gym are using gear, and I guarantee you maybe 2 of those percent would look like they're using gear. A lot of them, I mean, guys who don't even work out take testosterone just for better quality of life, for better thought process, for better sleep. And it's one of the best antidepressants out there. The pharmaceutical companies are going to tell you that because it's so cheap to manufacture and so cheap and like very, very, very small side effects on any level at the proper doses that it's not going to over-counter or overshadow their expensive, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. And so that's the battle there, is they could be doing a lot more good with this and getting people in normal ranges as long as they have their base set. And so I'm getting out, this is a little long tangent, but I have my sleep set, I have my nutrition set, I have everything in line, and I went from 250 to about 450. So you bet your ass I'm going to put what I need to in to teeter that 1,000 line as much as possible. Do you see what I'm saying?
Exactly. And another point that you just described, I know some people in my gym that actually use, and they don't look even half of, or don't have half the size. What I'm trying to get at is, even if you use and you don't train and your nutrition is not in line, you're not going to get results. So it all comes down to what you do: eating, training, sleeping, and maybe using.
Yeah,
you have to get everything in line.
And there was a recent article was written the other day that I just saw last night, and my wife brought it to my attention, and she was talking about, they did a study between the tested and untested powerlifting association, and the world records were only a 10% difference. So at the very highest level, yeah, obviously testosterone is going to make a difference, but if you're just trying to improve your situation, everything, it's not going to be the difference to make you the champion of your physique, in a sense. It's only going to be 10%. And if you don't have everything in line, I've seen guys on gear that eat like shit and their skin is awful and they're always sweating profusely and they're hyperventilating half the time. And so that's what it looks like when someone's abusing something. It's because they're using it in place of the basics versus using it to assist what may be lacking and can't be fixed.
Exactly. And I'm not too familiar with supplements in this regard, but the guys I know that have been using or use, for example, in some trainers at my gym, you see them on a cycle and they're like huge. You see them 2 months later when they drop off and they're skinny.
Yeah.
In difference to someone who is 100% natural, you will see them with a good physique all year round. Maybe a little fatter, maybe a little leaner, depending on how their diet is. But the gains stay, contrary to some artificial gains. But as you say, it depends on your goals and what you're trying to achieve.
Yep, beautiful.
Okay.
All right, next one.
Next, we have some questions regarding nootropics that we talked about yesterday.
Okay.
What are your thoughts about nootropics in general?
I love nootropics, but it comes down to the point of, is everything else set? Once everything else set, and being on a high-fat diet and very low carbohydrate, by low I mean 150 grams a day or less. You don't necessarily have to be keto, but keto makes it better. They improve neurotropics, and I've noticed this because I did my own results, and I worked with clients on neurotropics in and out of keto, and they've all said the same thing. And you get this, in a sense, interruption feeling when you're taking neurotropics and you're on a high carb-based diet and you don't have everything in line, as in you're still drinking energy drinks, you're dehydrated, your mineral content may be off. Like, these are all the fine-tuned things that you need to have in tune before you take neurotropics, in my personal opinion. And all the people that I follow and research and interact with, they're all very health conscious. They all work out at some level, and they're all within ranges of good body composition. And they're using that neurotropic to take them over the top and really boost performance at that point. So with that, I mean, they're phenomenal. So if you're going to get in the one of the starter stacks, and like we talked about yesterday, I hate to jump on and be like, hey, do this, because when it comes to neurotransmitter dominance and weakness, or not weakness, but deficiency, you look at, like, let's say I'm GABA deficient. And so, like, if I take color racetam, which is a GABAergic racetam, then I'm going to see better benefits than if I was acetylcholine dominant and took piracetam or Cinefirm or Novapep, because that's going to increase acetylcholine levels and really, kind of make me irritable and a little pissed off. And I can focus real well, but focus and extreme focus doesn't necessarily play with your surroundings in terms of group setting and environment. And so you can be very focused, so it's good for a workout, but find out what your neurotransmitter dominant test is by taking the Braverman test, is what it's called. And once that's done, then you can shoot me a message. I do consults and whatnot. Do some research, like some, I mean a lot. There's tons of awesome neurotropic sites out there, and find out which ones you're interested in, and then jump on those. And they've all come back, like the ones have been tested and tested, they've all come back safer than salt. So at no point would someone take enough to be lethal at all, or even make them sick. So there are some people who've done it that are out on the boards, but those guys were the pioneers of crazy, and we need them, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't necessarily the smartest thing to do, but I haven't seen anything terrible happen from them at all. So, and it's a great thing that's counteracting ADHD and all this other stuff. And I'm not saying healing, and I can't say legally that it can fight it off, but neurotropics kick those drugs ass, straight up. So that's my opinion on those.
Exactly. And also for someone who wants to get in neurotropics, apart from also doing the research first, there are a lot of neurotropics that can be obtained naturally. For example, we talked about it yesterday. Creatine is a neuroprotector. So it's one of the greatest and cheapest nootropics. Another one that people don't know about, that it's a nootropic, is caffeine. Also, I think it's the first nootropic as defined.
Yep.
Theanine, which is also in green tea.
And interestingly, if you mix caffeine and theanine, it gets rid of the jitter, and it's just a lot smoother.
It's actually one of the recommended formulas. People think they cancel each other out.
Yeah.
No, what happens is that you get the full benefits of caffeine without some of the side bad effects that some people get, such as like anxiety or jitteriness, and so. So a good way is mix both caffeine and theanine, and also creatine.
Yeah.
So that would be like the starter stack for people who wants to get into nootropics.
Yeah, absolutely. And Natural Stacks has a smart caffeine with a 2-to-1 ratio of caffeine and theanine. I don't get paid anything to say that. I just know if you want to cut straight to the source, go there. So
exactly. And also another good nootropic would be eggs, as we said yesterday. One of the choline, for example, which is also a marketed nootropic right now, is found in eggs. So get 2-3 eggs a day and you will get a little benefit from choline, which is also very good for keto.
Absolutely. Yeah, and then like we've talked about, get them from foods, and if you want a starter stack, alpha GPC or citicoline and a piracetam, or I prefer aniracetam. It's a little bit more, it lasts longer. You only got to dose once. And so those two right there are your go-tos. And, and then stack on some caffeine and L-theanine, and always take creatine. And we got that question about, is creatine okay in keto? And like, creatine should be okay forever for everyone. So yeah, take it every day.
Exactly. And regarding, now that we talked about creatine, supplements in general in keto, well, any supplement, as long as it does not have any big sources of carbs, should be okay on keto. So we say, like, you can take almost any pre-workout I know of. So don't worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think any pre-workouts really go over the 15 to 30 gram carb range anyway. So if you're doing a targeted ketogenic, then we can do that anyway. So
exactly.
easy pre-workouts on the table at that point.
Exactly, and this brings us to a question we had. What would be the best way to gain lean muscle on keto?
Okay, so the way I've been doing it is interesting. So there's two ways, obviously. One, just increase overall calories throughout the week and watch your weight steadily climb. Another one is to match, a small surplus here and there. So a bit more calories on leg day, less calories on arms day, and that is my preference. And so what I do is with my schedule, I typically end up under eating throughout the week, whether it's by 500 or even last night, I probably ate 2,000 calories less than I should have, just because workouts were late. But what was interesting, me being in keto, I worked out twice. My first workout, you guys will see here in a bit, and then the next workout, they were bastardly difficult, but I was able to crush them, and not eating more than 1,200 calories before both workouts. I mean, that's pretty impressive, I would say, like, to myself, because I wasn't, I didn't have a hard time thinking. I was still in the zone. I still had that power output. My mind to muscle connection was phenomenal. So that's kind of how I end up going out, is under eating. But then on Saturday, Sunday, what I'll do is end up just overfeeding like crazy. And I'll go by feel. So if I didn't work out that hard, then my overfeeding isn't that crazy. But if I smashed it and I didn't eat enough, then you bet. So I like to look at calories over the week. So I'll go low, which helps me burn fat and stay lean, and train harder, because I don't feel that well when I train on a really full stomach. So once I'm through there, smash food, and that's a lot of fat. And, I get up to maybe 150, 200 grams of carbs. Maybe, if I'm feeling crazy and testing myself, we'll go 500 grams of carbs. And I'll stay in keto because there's so much fat with it, and I've earned that throughout the week. So that's how I've decided to bulk.
Okay, this is very much like we do in KetoGains. As you say, more than calculating calories on a daily basis, it is suggested that you can calculate them on a weekly basis from your starting TDEE. And then, or another way to see it is eat a little bit more on days you lift and you strength train, and a bit less on days you rest. It really depends on preferences. Like you said, you eat more on days you rest. Normally, I myself eat less on days I rest. That's like depending on schedule and how much you work out, how you feel. Also, what we found on KetoGains is that more so than actual calories to gain muscle on keto. What is important is volume. So we've been playing with a program we've been experimenting with, which is based on German volume training, GBT, plus a lot of accessory exercises. And this creates like a perfect place to build muscle with adequate protein and, of course, adequate fat. It all boils down to stressing enough your muscles and then feeding them. You don't have to be in a huge surplus. We found that maybe with just 5 or 10% maxima, you can get enough energy to keep on with the strength training and the volume. And this will create like the perfect window to build while staying lean. You don't want to get fat. You don't have to get fat to build muscle.
No, and it kind of goes back to John Berardi, who's a phenomenal doctor nutritionist, Open Precision Nutrition, which is actually my first certification. He did something called the Get Shredded diet, where you would go really low calorie, like 2,000 for a 200-pound individual, and then for 2 weeks straight, and then one day out of the week, he would refeed on 3 to 4 times the amount. And he did it with himself and another female. And if I remember correctly, they both, I think the female gained about 5 pounds of muscle in 12 weeks and lost a tremendous amount of body fat, like a 6%. She was in contest preparation, so she got that lean, but she built muscle all the way into the show. And the guy had seen similar results, John did. So that shows, because that's keto, what he was doing. It was a 70% fat diet, and then the rest would fall in line, but it had to fit with 2,000. And then on that one day, you could refeed on whatever. But chances are, when you're that depleted and you worked out that hard, that one refeed, you could probably do all 6,000 calories in carbs, and there's a good chance you're going to be back in keto in 48 hours.
Exactly. Yeah, this touches about doing cyclical ketogenic diets, which we had a lot of questions about.
Yeah.
And maybe being adapted for a while and now also very lean and insulin sensitive. Absolutely. You can play with a higher carb intake. But this is, I personally don't suggest doing carb refeeds to people who are obese or want to, let's say, over 15% body fat, or just doing keto to get lean. I don't think that really refeeds are beneficial in any way.
No, just if you're bulking.
Exactly, or for athletes.
Yeah.
But if you're not an athlete, you're just like a weekend warrior doing strength training just for like do something or get a little better in your body shape. Like, don't kid yourself. You just want to do a carb refeed to eat pizza, pasta, and chocolate cake, not for the real benefits. You're not gonna get real benefits. And also, as the research shows, the one Jacob Wilson has been doing, I don't think it's really beneficial toward long-term health.
Exactly. Yeah, in the study, they lost lean mass. So they went 5 low, 2 high, and they wouldn't get into keto. And so, like you said, you need to be adapted. But at the same time, like, I'm saying you could eat that. I'm not saying do eat that. What I would rather do is keto pizza, chocolate avocado cookies, bulletproof ice cream. So I want to keep the same fuel source that I've been using high. So the next day, Monday, when it comes back, I'm going to kill it. Because I'm sure you've had, a Sunday where you've eaten a carb refeed, and Monday you feel bloated and slow as shit.
Exactly.
I want that.
Yeah, that was my experience when I started keto a long time ago. I started doing the Lyle McDonald way, but doing a cyclical ketogenic diet, and I started doing the 8 days of standard keto, and then the 2 days of carb refeeds. And what happened is that I ended up bloated. I had to do the depletion workouts, which take like more than 2 hours, right? So that all was interfering with my real training. And I was like, damn, I had to do a carb load again. I was not enjoying the diet.
Yeah.
So what happens is that I ended up spacing more and more the carb loads. And over time, I found out that I was doing a carb load maybe once every month or once every 2 months. And then I said, I don't need to carb load. I'm not getting any benefit from carb loading. I'm not looking any shredded. I'm not looking bigger. I'm looking better without doing carb loads. And then eventually I used to stop doing them. And then I started experimenting with TKD because I went back to the book and said, well, I didn't do this at first because it is stated as the middle ground, and middle ground reads as mediocre.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be a mediocre bodybuilder. So that's why lots of people just skip the TKD part and go straight to CKD.
And I did that too.
Yeah, everyone I know who has read the book always goes straight to CKD.
Yeah.
And I think that's
king. When we
that's because Lyle puts it that way, and I think that's wrong. One should start with the standard keto diet, maybe then transition to TKD, and then maybe experiment with TKD, not the other way around. And I've been doing targeted keto for more than 5 years, and I had better results in my physique, my training, my competitions than with the carb loading, and I feel way better overall. So my advice is stick to targeted keto, and the carbs come in regards to, like you said, if you earn them, if you're training hard enough, and if you really need them, maybe experiment with them.
Beautiful. Yeah, and it comes down to experiment. So like in order for you to find how many carbs you can have or how hard your workout was, you have to test to say if you're in keto, and it has to be an ongoing process to see, in a sense, how much you need every time and still stay in keto. Now, the thing though is if you refeed on Sunday after a hard leg workout and you get bumped out, you're probably going to be back in and you're still keto adapted. So if you've been going longer, you know what I mean? So it's a lot of people want to freak out and be like, oh no, I got bumped out of keto for 10 minutes. And like, yeah, you'll be back in though. And so it's just like, you know, sometimes when you're eating a lot of carbs and you forget to eat a day, you're like, I'm going to lose all my gains, and you're fine the next day. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of the same thing. Just don't be afraid. It's not the end of the world like we talked about. And, you know, experiment, push different levels, and that's the point of optimizing. If you don't make some mistakes, then you can't learn what those mistakes were and where they can lead to better places.
Exactly. And now you talk about optimizing. What would be your take on optimal protein intake?
So that's going to be dependent. I used to be, you know, along the track of 300 to 400 grams, you know, 2 to 3, maybe 4 grams per pound of body weight. And so like, this was old school bodybuilder mentality. I can't say old school. So it was like the generation between old school and new school. Ben Pakulski and, you know, Larry Scott. There's that generation where kind of gear took over, and all of a sudden it was just force feed all your protein, stuff like that. And so it freaked me out. But now my average daily protein intake's like 150. And if you would have told me that like 6 years ago, I'd have been like, yeah, you're crazy. I'll die. You know, there goes all my gains. So
you say, how much do you weigh?
205 pounds a day.
And then you're ingesting 150 grams. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm at about 158.
Yeah.
It should be about 72 kilos. And I'm ingesting around 130 at most. Well, days when I peak out, I'll go up 150. That's like my top end.
Yeah.
And I haven't lost any muscle.
Well, I've gone all the way down to 100 grams of protein on purpose to just get myself out of that I need protein mentality, because I was smashing protein shakes. I was eating gross chicken all the time. You know what I mean? And I had to buy everything at, you know, the cheapest places possible because the amounts I was eating couldn't afford me any kind of quality. But now that I'm eating like dark meat chicken and a lot more nutrient dense foods, like my meat is the best. I get T-bone bison steaks versus, you know, store-bought Tyson chicken. I mean, that is a huge difference. So yeah, just it's nuts. But once you get over that protein block in your head, and it's like a lot of people with the carb, they got to hold on to those carbs. It's the same thing. If you got to get a protein, got to get, and fats is your key. Damn it.
Exactly, and this goes like you said, is the keto mentality is like forget almost everything you know about nutrition.
Yeah.
And this also tackles protein. Like I was an old style bodybuilder. I used to, like, if you ask my friends, they called me Mr. Protein because I carried my whey shakes. I carried protein bars everywhere I go. If we went to Europe or China or wherever backpacking, I bought and I carried a whole backpack full of protein shakes and protein bars. And I had to eat every 3 hours.
Yep.
And then, like, 5 years ago, I said, like, fuck it, let's research. And then I started reading about not needing that much protein, and now like I'm free.
Yeah.
I don't have to eat like every 3 hours. I've been doing intermittent fasting for more than a year, and then I have 2 meals a day. I don't have a post-workout shake or anything. I just have maybe my pre-workout should be MCT oil with some glucose. That's it. And then maybe my first meal usually is at 3 or 4 p.m. and my last meal at 8 p.m. And I'm still gaining muscle. I'm shredded. I'm averaging good lifts on powerlifting meets. So, well, it changed my life, really. I'm not a slave to food like I was before. I still check my macros and my calories, but not like I have to eat every 3 hours or my anabolic window is going to go off and then I'm going to lose all my gains.
And if you don't get 30 grams of protein, you can't spike synthesis and you're going to die. Yeah, no, I used to do that.
Exactly.
Freaking fun stuff, yeah. The slavery to the bodybuilding field.
Exactly.
And it's funny, too, because now that I'm eating less protein and eating more fat, like I have, and you said this, too, and for everyone that hasn't seen it, go look at his pictures, and you can see mine, too. Like, I've been fat. I've been 240. But my contest stage weights were at the very lightest was 180, which was ridiculous. But the highest was 190. That's it. And so that being said, like the last show I did was full in keto, and so that was the biggest and leanest I ever looked. And I was eating twice a day. I wasn't doing 6 meals a day. Now I did make the mistake because if I get under about 8%. I need to stop intermittent fasting and actually throw a meal in there, and that keeps my metabolism going. But at the same time, like I still look good. I didn't feel like shit until 2 weeks out. And at that point, I knew this is the path to take and I can just keep it rolling.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Okay. So I think the main questions on the Reddit are over. Okay. Why don't we switch down to your line of questions?
Okay. So the first one, Jason Ship asks, what are the necessary steps to move from fat adapted to keto, and how do you know when you get there? So let's explain fat adapted and keto adapted a little more thoroughly. Go ahead.
Okay. Keto adapted keto adapted is a longer process.
Yes.
Than fat adapted. You can become fat adapted maybe in a week, probably. It's when your body is actually glucose and glycogen depleted, and then you start generating or synthesizing ketones from your own fat stores or from ingested fat, and then you use the fat as fuel. It's a really easy process to get into, speaking metaphorically. Now, keto adapted involves mitochondria. Actually, it takes a while to be generated, sometimes between 4 up to 12 weeks of being in constant ketosis. You have to generate the cells. Yes. Mitochondria are like the energy generators of your body, so they have to actually learn or rewire to using ketones and fatty acids as main sources of fuel. So that is why it takes a little bit longer.
Yeah. And so, so if you're, and what I've kind of figured out too, so when I did my whole keto experiment, I got in for 2 weeks and had carbs, then 4 weeks and had carbs and yada, yada, yada. So, I bumped out quite a few times seeing where the limit was, and it felt like the magic really kicked in at 12 weeks. So the first 2 weeks when I was getting fat adapted, and that's what we're talking about, it could take 7 days it could take 5 days if your workouts are crushing it. It could take 10 days if you're pretty good at working out. It could take 14 days if you're sedentary. And so that's when you start taking fats and turning them to ketones. Now, that doesn't mean your body is saying, okay, I know how to handle these ketones and kick ass with them throughout my system. Now, your heart, your diaphragm, your lungs, your brain, they're like, yeah, we want this right away. And so they'll start picking it up. But there's still a lot of waste ketones. And that goes back to, are urine sticks accurate? When you're first getting into ketosis, yes, they're very accurate. Atkins, that's all they used throughout their entire thing until they built a giant spaceship for breathalyzing. You see what I'm saying? So ketone strips, use those, but once the waist ketones start dropping, which I noticed at 8 weeks for myself, is I would go from a dark purple and it was always, moderate to even trace, even though I would eat a ton of fat. And so what I noticed though is my workouts were getting better, faster, stronger, and more clear. So at the 12-week mark, I was just cranking, and I think that's when you're fully keto adapted. And I think also if you do 2-a-days, which that's what I decided to do, you actually force your body to keto adapt faster because you're putting under such metabolic stress, and that's the only source it has. So it's got to be like, okay, I'm going to jump on this because I don't see anything else possible. So I think you can keto adapt faster if you really crank on it, but it's going to take 12 weeks or longer if you're not going to crank on it.
Exactly. And now that you talked about ketos, the keto sticks or the famous pea sticks, it's like a big myth and prevalent. We have to remember that the keto sticks are with just excess ketones, meaning, as you said, when you start the diet, you're gonna be peeing most of these ketones because your body does not know what to use or what are they for. Like we once talked about it, you are changing fuel sources.
Yeah.
So at first, your body does not know what to do with them, so they're gonna excrete them. Now, as you get more used to the diet and the ketones in your body, you're gonna use them, so you're gonna excrete less and less of them. When I started keto and then started the KetoGains forum and started writing on keto on Facebook and on Reddit, people started asking me about keto sticks, and I hadn't really used them for a while. I had some left over and tried them, and then I was like, well, I'm not eating carbs. I'm not eating that much protein. Why am I not showing ketones in my urine? So I went back to my books and researched more, and then I found out that, yeah, it's because I'm using them, not excreting them. And this is a very an experiment that some people can do is, if you ingest alcohol, what happens is that you will pee darker in your keto sticks. Why? Because your liver is metabolizing alcohol instead of ketones, so it's gonna excrete the ketones. Or also, you cheat, you're gonna show a darker strip in the keto sticks because you're excreting all the ketones and you're using all the glucose anyway.
Yeah.
So it does not mean that you're still in ketosis even after you cheated. It means that you're not using ketones, so they're gonna throw them away.
Yeah, there you go. Awesome. Yeah, that's a huge piece. So, and there's debate because like there's a girl out there who's touted keto expert who's been in for 3 years, and she talks about how this doesn't work and that doesn't work and this doesn't work, and she's the one that's saying cheese is blocking keto adaptation and that's just doing that, right? I mean,
coffee.
Right?
I know who you're talking about. Coffee. You cannot have a coffee. Well,
fuck.
What I would do without coffee? I'm like 15 years on keto and drinking coffee every day.
You're out. You've never been in keto, bro.
No, I've been doing it wrong for 15 years.
Awesome. Yeah, so just so you know, and that's the stuff, I'm not ripping on her. It's just frustrating because this stuff deters people from trying. And
exactly.
So we're just trying to clear that up. We're not dogging on anyone. If she wants to come back on us, it's fair game, but it's don't exclude, include. And you talked about this. If you're going to switch over to something like keto, look at all the stuff you can have. Like you can have butter, coconut oil, bacon, avocados, just everything under the sun. Don't look at what you can't have. Don't look at, I can't have bread. I can't have bread. That's the big one. I can't have bread. Or I can't have oatmeal. What I like to do is I use what Mark Sisson said. He's the founder of Primal Blueprint, Mark's Daily Apple. And it's wonderful. He's been, 100 grams of carbs, depending on your activity, very ketosis based. And he said that you take a steak and you cook it, and you take oatmeal and cook it as is. Which one would be more desirable to you? And at that point, you can figure out which diet you can follow. So if you want that steak over that oatmeal, nothing added, then yeah, you want to go to keto.
Exactly. We were talking about this also yesterday, and this is go as unprocessed as possible.
Yes.
And remember that, for example, say you want to ingest or you need 30 grams carbs a day. You want rice? What would be 30 grams of rice? Maybe, I don't know, half a cup. And you really want just half a cup of rice, or do you want all these green vegetables and all these food you can have instead of like this little bit of carbs? There are like a lot of healthy sources of carbs. Keto is not zero carb. Keto is like a lot of unprocessed carbs that have very little glucose or very little starch in them.
No impact.
Exactly, no impact on your diet. And regarding what you said about no cheese and no coffee and everything, some people, for example, I suggest my clients when starting the diet and when they're very overweight, stop eating cheese and stop eating nuts. Not because they are bad, but because most people don't know about portion control. Cheese is very calorie dense and very fat dense. So mostly, if you want to lose weight, you have to cut all the foods that are very calorie dense and go back to food that are very more nutrition. For example, let's have, as you said, 300 grams of steak instead of this little bit of cheese.
Yes, absolutely.
You're gonna be fuller with the steak. You're gonna be more successful with the diet, and then maybe in 2 or 3 weeks you can start adding back up nuts and cheese, because those are domino foods. You're gonna see one people. I don't know anyone that really can just eat 3 nuts. You know, you're gonna eat 12 or 20 or 30 nuts or the whole package while you watch TV.
Yeah.
So it's about being successful with the diet, and those are little tips that can help you a long way. Maybe later on you can start adding back up all the food you like, but as a start, if you want to lose weight, you have to stick up with the diet.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So Emma Dancy, she's a member of KetoGains. She posts quite a bit. She says, is it okay to stay in keto indefinitely, or is it good to take a break? If so, how would you reintroduce carbs? Would you decrease fat?
Well, 15 years here. So yeah, you can stay as long as you want if you like the food. If you want to reintroduce carbs, well, make sure though, first they come from as most as unprocessed food as possible, veggies, starches, etc. Then later on, or at the least, you want to reintroduce sugars and all that stuff that you know you shouldn't be eating anyway. Like, they're comfort foods after all, but they should not be your main sources of nutrients.
Awesome. Yeah, and so what I would suggest is, you know, if you're 70% fat, start dropping by 10%, adding 10% until I would go no lower than 30. And I don't really ever see a need to go lower than 40% fat. So bring your calories into that range of balance. But like we also talked about earlier, if you're going to switch sources of fuel and you've been in for one or the other for a little while, there's going to be some turnover. So you're going to get a little bit puffier. You're going to look, you know, when you're switching first into keto, you probably look a little flatter and softer until we start getting used to that energy source. So just prepare for that. And then, yeah, just come from whole food sources all the time. Don't switch over to Pop-Tarts. It's not IIFYM. That's stuff. If you really need Pop-Tarts,
diet,
go hug somebody.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. We have a question about, well, I think we already tackled it about thoughts on CKD once adapted into ketosis by Adam Ali when you're really low on body fat.
Yeah, I would definitely suggest it. So it runs into like, so I drop Ben Bukulski's name a lot, not because I like to drop names, but because I work with him, and he's a very high fat advocate individual. He uses carbs because he's, you know, trying to get to 300 pounds, and it's not optimal to not have carbs at that point. But bumping onto some of the coaches he works with, like Mark Coles and Milo Serkov, and they were talking about using carbs to boost workout performance, even if they're on a high fat. So they would stay keto most of the time. And then there's no reason not to give yourself a little bit of glucose and some good, you know, amino acids and everything to fuel that workout, because it's going to go to brain function if you're running on ketones. It's not enough carbs for your body to be like, oh, I want to start running on that again. It's just going to be like, oh, okay, I can use this for a little bit more thought process and, you know, use it for some cell swelling. And then it just gives this mental edge for a lot of my clients. If they have 15 grams of carbs, they feel like they can perform better. It's not necessarily true because we've seen studies prove that it's not true, but if it's going to give them a placebo effect of they're going to perform better and their confidence is going to be higher and I can get that much more out of them, hell yeah, TKD is the way to go.
Yeah, and I've been attending a lecture with Menno Henselmans. I'm taking his course, and there's actually one part where he describes that carbs for strength training, for the most part, and for most sports, are not really necessary. They're most like a placebo effect.
Yeah.
And if you tell someone, and I've seen this with some of my clients, that you don't really need carbs, and that you only think you need carbs because you've been told all your life that you need carbs. Yeah. And on the other hand, you need more fat like MCT oil. They're going to perform the same or even better with just the MCT oil or with salt than with the carbs. Like, and I'm referring to some kinds of strength training that do not really require carbs, such as maybe sprinting, soccer. Those are very exhaustive sports that might require a little bit more carbs. But if you're just doing strength training for recreational reasons, you don't need carbs. On the other hand, like as you said, athletes, pro athletes, of course they're going to find the benefit from doing a carb load. Yeah. Or someone who wants to do a photo shoot, like to get super pumped and to get all the muscles filled with glycogen, right?
Yeah. Well, even then too, if you've been in ketosis, the amount for a carb load is diminished by at least 70%. Because a carb load for me to look full would usually, after I've been depleted, is about 500 grams over maybe a day and a half. Now I can take 100 grams of carbs and look just like I did with 500 grams of carbs because my body's more efficient at using the amount that I give it.
And also because, contrary to popular belief, glycogen, and even more so when adapted, does not really deplete as fully as people believe. It's actually super hard to deplete. If we really had our glycogen levels depleted, we will not be able to train at all.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. Awesome. All right. So one of the guys on MI40 Nation said, Ben Pekulski is saying keto is not an optimal diet. What are my thoughts on this? So coming from the bodybuilding aspect, Jacob Bucko is also vegetarian, so we need to tread lightly. Just giving you a heads up. I got to take my shots where I can take them. So he doesn't ever say that it's not optimal for what. So it comes down to, if you want to be the biggest bodybuilder on earth, then yeah, you're going to have carbs, because a 300-pound man to push a 1,000-pound leg press for 20 reps is going to require some external glucose than his body can provide. And at that point, he doesn't want his muscles making it, because every single thing he's concentrated on is protecting that. So he will have carbs, but is he necessarily out of keto if he's taking 150, 200 grams of carbs? A 300-pound guy who's fairly probably not.
It's about context, as we talked earlier. Like, I can take maybe 12 or 15. That's what I found that works for me. But I'm like a manlet, a short guy, small, even though I may look bigger. Like 15, 20 grams of carbs for me, it's enough. Maybe for you, you can take 50 grams a day. I don't know. It depends.
50, 60 is great for me. So
exactly.
Yeah, just what size are you? He's 300 pounds. And unless you get that in person, it's really hard to think about that. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So yeah. All right. Did I miss the answer to these? No. All right. What is the progression? Okay, so we covered that. It was a progression on reintroducing carbs. He asks, so Taylor, what's progression of reintroducing carbs? For example, 1 gram per pound of lean body mass the first week, and then 1.5, and then 2 the next week. Or would you increase every 2 weeks?
I would go slowly, really, but more so for the stomach and intestinal distress more than anything else.
Absolutely.
Really, like I've been doing when I did carb loads, I did them over a weekend, and the worst thing that happened was the bloating and maybe the bathroom visits, but like everything else is like nothing happens. So take it, as you said, by feel.
Yeah. And to go on that, so if you get digestive enzymes from a good source, so when I get people first going into keto, it's digestive enzyme. If I get them going out, digestive enzymes to bring those enzymes that you haven't necessarily used back up. And that'll help the stomach distress that we've all had. All right, so. How long would you recommend being on keto before intermittent fasting? And will BCAAs upon waking kick you out of a keto state or take your body out of a fasted state?
Okay.
You get that one?
Yeah, okay. Normally, it depends on who you ask what fasting is.
Yeah.
Most people, well, in regards to intermittent fasting, a la lean gain style, the line of thought is anything over 40 calories will take you out of a fasting state. So in regards to branched chain amino acids, well, they're like protein. So as long as you take maybe 5-10 grams, there shouldn't be any issue. Also, well, if you're going to take a branched chain aminos while fasting, take them around your workout. Otherwise, there's no real benefit from them. As far as I know, I don't know if you have a different opinion on this.
No, I mean, so what you're saying is I used to actually take them in the morning thinking that would benefit me in some way. But they've actually had a couple studies out recently that says chronic dosing of amino acids all the way through the day will actually decrease the ability to gain muscle. So as long as you're not over the protein synthesis inducing threshold of leucine, which is 3 to 9 grams. So if you're taking 5 grams of BCAAs, and as long as you're staying under 3 grams of leucine, that won't initiate any insulin response, and so your body thinks it's fasted. Now, if I remember correctly, John Kiefer was always saying, too, if you do your coffee with creamer and a half a scoop of protein, that is technically seen as fasted by your system as well. And I think the Bulletproof guy does it too, Dave Asprey. And I know he's going to get rattled here, but he's got some good stuff. I love his products. And I do drink Bulletproof coffee, but it's not with butter.
Yeah.
I call it superhero coffee. So everyone, for my coffee, it's full-fat coconut milk, a tablespoon of coconut oil, a tablespoon of MCT oil, a half a scoop of protein, and then cinnamon and cacao and all that good stuff. So, I mean, that's my first meal, and I give it to all my athletes and clients because intermittent fasting can be that right there, and that's your get up and go, and then don't eat till about 2 or 4 o'clock, or like we talked about is, do your coffee or don't do your coffee, and then eat dinner at 4, and then 1 at 8, and then you're done. And there's your.
And then about doing how much or how long do you have to wait before doing fasting when doing keto? It mostly depends on how much things are you doing at the same time. Doing too much at the same time will often lead to failure because you're stressing and overthinking and everything. So it's better you just do one thing at a time and incorporate gradual changes in your diet and lifestyle, because otherwise you will get overwhelmed. Otherwise, if you can, well, like do everything together if you want, or better yet, start keto, get familiarized with the diet, and then start adding maybe strength training, maybe then intermittent fasting, everything in layers.
Yeah, and so going on that, like exactly, I would suggest getting into keto before you start intermittent fasting and wait until you're fully in, like 4 weeks, and then pull the trigger on the fasting. Reason being is if you're going from like 5 to 6 meals a day, if you're not prepared to deal with the hunger pangs that are going to hit you every 3 hours, and you turn irritable and get cranky and you can't breathe through it, then that's probably not a good thing for your work or relationships. Now, if you can deal with that, you're going to see tremendous benefits, and you can start intermittent fasting out of the gate. So I did it that way. I chose to just go intermittent fasting, and it was a little overwhelming. It's just I'm a coach, and so if I'm able to do it, then a lot of other people can do it. But I'll coach most people through it, and I won't, like you said, I won't suggest it unless they have a coach. So I was starting intermittent fasting. I did it, but the nice thing is if you can let the hunger subside, which is the ghrelin hormone, once that drops, you get a massive burst of growth hormone, which keeps you in autophagy, and it's pretty much you're just regenerating cells. So it's a really good state to be in if you can get in it. So yeah, be warned, but probably simpler is better.
Exactly. And as you said, if you're getting coached by Craig or me, of course, we can take you by the hand on this. And really, intermittent fasting and keto work like perfectly together. They are like a match made in heaven. You get the full benefits of keto, which is not hunger, and then with the not hunger from also intermittent fasting and working out fasted and everything else, like it's just like it all adds up beautifully. And then you can see lean gains and like you don't have to worry about food. It's all, everything becomes much simpler.
Yeah, I feel like what I've noticed is it seems to take an individual, and I've seen this from fighters and obese people. It seems to just put them right where they should be for their body. It's not like I want to be 300 pounds. Here we go. Oh, I want to, be a skinny, fat 115, or I want to starve myself with keto. It doesn't do that. It'll prevent that. You'll stop seeing progress, and all it will do is optimize what your or my 5'9", frame should be for my genetics and everything. So it seems to unlock a genetic potential that's missing in everyone else. So that's what at least I've noticed with my athletes. Because Josh Tyler's the one with a beard in all my videos, really shredded guy. When we first got him, he was running. So he was healthy. He was a wrestler. He was always eating chicken and brown rice. He had his Tupperware everywhere went with him. He was clocking 10 miles a day as an MMA fighter, right? And he looked just strung out, skinny, kind of weak. Everyone called him fitness because he had that physique, but he just didn't look like he was all there. No more cardio, switched him to keto. He went from eating 6 times a day, and sometimes he'd get 1 meal a day. And now he's a lot fuller, he's thicker, and he's the same weight. He still fights at 145. 3 years later, just the amount of muscle fullness and health that's come back is ridiculous.
And how much cardio do you do?
None.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I used to do like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour of cardio before. And now, like, if I do 20 minutes, it's like, what?
I'm good. Yeah. It's if you do 20 minutes of steady state cardio, it's just like, this is too easy for me to keep doing it. So I need to go push a prowler or something. So that's exactly what it feels like in keto.
Exactly.
Okay. So Keely asks, and she's doing a show here Saturday out in the UK, pros and cons of allowing your body to come out of keto for a short period. Now, she asked me this because she's been in keto for, I want to say 10 weeks now. 8 of those weeks have been supervised by Catherine and I. No, only 5. And so she's done very well, and she's got a competition, and then she's planned a barbecue with some cheap food. And she's asking me for keto recipes, and I said, don't worry about it. Just eat what you want, and we'll be back in keto in 48 to 72 hours. Now, what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, go for it. Eat all the meat. Like we talked about this also. Normally, I will have about 3 or 4, maybe 5 cheats a year. What I do is I don't have like a whole cheat day or a cheat weekend. Maybe let's say 1 or 2 hours where I eat freely. Most of the time, I will not count calories in regards to maybe go to a buffet and eat like mostly keto-friendly foods. But there are like very specific times, for example, on a wedding where there is a whole buffet of desserts. And so, well, I'll go pig out and maybe have cake and cheese and whatever I haven't had in a while. One day does not happen, does not hinder progress. Really, last time I did it was like about 3 months ago at a wedding. Roughly, or very probably, I had like 10,000 calories. Less or more. Probably just like by eyeballing everything I ate. Like Mrs. Fields cookies, I have like, I don't know, maybe 10. I have like, I don't know, 10 pounds of cheese, ice cream, cake, whatever. The next day and the next day, I waited, maybe I gained like 4 pounds. Really, over the week, I was exactly at my weight before. So nothing happened.
Damn, yeah. And your body's just so happy being in keto, it wants to get back. So if you don't continue the process, and then another point too is you need to, after a diet of 12 weeks, you need to really refeed, like eat your ass off for more than 3 days to see fat come back on. So
also, another you talk about the issue, we normally suggest on KetoGains, and I've seen it in a lot of boards, more so than a refeed, a carb refeed, is it is very healthy that after 5 or 6 weeks of being in a constant deficit, of course, if you're not having a deadline or not competing, do a short diet break. And by this diet break, I mean you don't have to leave keto at all. Just eat around your maintenance calories, or don't count calories for a week or so. Just give yourself a short mental break, because your body will downregulate a little bit your metabolism for being in a deficit for too long. So you just have to like give yourself a rest. Just as when you're strength training and you have to load and recycle and do periodization, the same happens with the diet. Just maybe a weekend, maybe a whole week. It depends on you and how you feel. You don't have to go and do a whole carb load. This is different. Just do a diet break. Eat whatever in regards to staying in keto. Give yourself a rest, and then get back to your dieting if that is what you want.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great points. All right. Is that me or you? Got Darth Vader over there. All right. So say you're in a position where you have gone out of keto since 2 weeks, and there's an event coming which will be loaded with carbs. Or you have not gone out of keto for 2 weeks, and there's an event coming which will be loaded with carbs. Should one go to an event after working out in the gym so the carbs will be used up better, or go after the event to the gym? And protein, whey, I take a scoop of On Gold, has 3 carbs, usually with a tablespoon before workout. What's the best way to consume protein, whey when bulking in keto? Also, when you're cutting in keto, what's the best way to consume it? So this is Naman Shahir. It's also on KetoGains. So did you get that one?
Yeah, well, in regards to the event, well, we just said it once. But once, you're not obligated to eat anything. Really, like they're not putting a gun to your head and saying eat everything. No, like you have to decide: is it worth it? Do you want to? And also, like if I have a competition maybe and I have to make weight, or I'm going to have a photo shoot, even if I went to an important event where it's going to be filled with carbs, I personally would not eat it. I would maybe eat before or eat after. Now, if you are living like a normal life and it's just an event and you want to enjoy it, well, you have to compromise. Maybe you can eat and then you cut calories during the next week, or do a little bit more strength training. I don't know. You have to compromise. But what you don't have to do is pig out and then fall off the wagon and then come back later crying 2 weeks later. I fell off the wagon for 1 day and then it became 2 weeks, and then we become 2 months of constant binging. That is being irresponsible. That's a whole different story. And in regards to what is the best time to drink protein or eat a protein, more so than timing, I think it's the amount of protein during the day that it's important. So calculate your macros and just be diligent and ingest protein throughout the day. Don't worry too much about the anabolic window, as we said before.
Yeah, that anabolic window, it's kind of been blown out of the water. So I've learned a lot from Ben and his side of things, and Charles Poliquin's side of things on pre, post, intra-workout nutrition, along with a lot of guys on T-Nation. And so here's what I found out that seems to work the best for myself and my athletes and my clients is if I'm going to go to a carb-loaded event and there is some stuff I want to eat there, let's say there's some amazing gluten-free pizza, then I'm going to do that because it's very rare for me to jump on it. So pre-workout is when that's going to happen, hopefully an hour and a half to 2 hours. And then I'm going to maximize that. I'm going to take a nice pre-workout that's going to improve cell swelling and your pump. And I'm going to smash my workout. And then if I'm going to have any protein to finish it off and help shuttle glucose out, it'll be right after the workout. So it's not necessarily to get much of your nutrition post anymore. Like my post-workout is usually about 16 grams of branched chain amino acids, creatine supplement, some other anti-inflammatory supplements, and then some NCT oil. So that's usually my post workout in the morning, and then my evening is usually the same thing. So yeah, pre and intra would be your optimal ideas. And then again with the protein, like I would rather have you get your protein from whole food sources, non-processed. And that's why I use the protein called as ProTF. It's only 10 grams, and it initiates protein synthesis with that versus 30 grams. And so I don't have to worry about it too, because also there's this big old lawsuit that came out. Did you see about that? How like you had different companies that were saying we had 25 grams of protein, but they only had 10, and they were counting 5 grams of glutamine towards the protein count. So, you know, you don't have to, you got to be careful with proteins because you don't necessarily know what's in them. And so finding a very high quality, small dose or a very really good branched chain amino acid is going to be way better for you.
And now that you talked about protein again, this is something I tell to my clients is, what would you rather have? A whey shake or maybe 6 eggs?
Yeah.
If you're complaining about being hungry, well, get some eggs and get beef or get chicken. Eat real food that you can that will fill you up. Yeah. Otherwise, you're gonna drink or chug a 20 gram or 30 gram protein shake, but that would be maybe 400, 500 grams of steak. Really, just eat.
That's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of steak.
Yeah, there's a lot of nutrient density you're trading off for one.
Exactly.
All right. Do you have the time? What do we got on time, man?
It's 5:30 here, and I think we're almost done with all the questions. I don't know if you.
Oh no, I'm just starting on the second page.
Okay, yeah. Most of the questions that we had today are rehash from the other one.
Cool, I'm seeing that.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. So we got, well.
For example, we had one about working out twice a day.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, we can go that very quickly. It depends on if you have the time. And as we said, well, I found out that high volume on keto works wonders.
Yes.
For hypertrophy, also, well, on keto, I think high volume will be optimal as long as you keep the nutrient intake adequate.
Yep.
So that we got two questions in one answered already.
Where do people start who've never done keto?
Well, probably KetoGains on the fact, just like get the basics, maybe get if you want to get a book, well, there are a lot of starting books out there, like all the Finney and Bullock books, even Keto Clarity may be a good starting guide. And then you can start on KetoGains or with you or with me or on Reddit also.
Awesome.
The basic would be just stop eating carbs, try to eat a lot of green veggies, stop eating fruits, and eat whole foods.
Boom. Awesome. Yep. I suggest the Keto Clarity book. I know he gained all his weight back, but I mean, so Keto Clarity, he does such a good job at covering the rhetoric and the bullshit that's out there and smashing it so I don't have to smash it again. Because he's literally, he'll say, I can't believe that's true. I can't believe that's true. This is why it's not like 7 times in the book. And so that's really good for people who have any doubts. He gained a lot of his weight back because he's the definition of what lazy keto was. It was, exactly. He's just trying to eat so much processed food. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Lazy keto will yield lazy results. Bingo. So don't believe the thing that on keto nutrients and macros don't count. Of course they count. You can get fat on keto. You can get overweight by eating lots of fat and fat bombs. Keto is not a free pass. So the best thing is that first, I would say we have a rhyme in keto that says that protein is king. So always calculate first your protein needs, meet your protein needs, then carbs are a limit, and then fat is energy. Beautiful. So you keep protein intake adequate, carbs low, and the fat is according to your goals. You need more energy, eat more fat. You want to lose weight, eat less fat. That's as simple as it gets.
Money.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So, thoughts on 2 days, done that. All right. What formulas do I use when calculating macros for overweight clients? not high performing clients, but average Joe. What is the overall keto strategy? So I don't calculate macros for overweight or obese clients. I start with habits. I literally tell them no more fast food. I don't necessarily put restrictions, and it's not necessarily no more fast food. Carl's Jr. has a grass-fed burger, and I never thought I would say eat Carl's Jr. But hey, if you're in a pinch and you're out late, you've been busy, you were working, you did your workout today, don't get a grass-fed burger from Carl's Jr. So it's awesome they're catching on to that shit, and it might be marketing ploy, but they have it. So when it comes down to it, I say eat a lot of fatty meat that comes from good sources. And all my clients know, and they get a high-fat little packet, and it's all the sources are grass-fed, natural, organic. It's always that. So I know they're not getting any bad fats. At that point, I give them the coffee recipe, which every one of them love it. I tell them they can eat 1, 2, 3, or 4 times a day, choose. I have them get a calorie counter, and I said, this is the amount of fats you want to hit around. This is the amount of protein you want to hit around. Have fun. And that's it. And every client that I've had on there has been successful. I don't like to stick them with a meal plan. I don't like to give them macros to stick to ideally, because that creates OCD-like disorder, especially for someone who's trying to lose massive amounts of weight. So easiest habits, and it's so easy to get in keto as long as you're under the guise of someone who's been in before.
Exactly. Yeah, they're like, depends also, I think, on the people, right? If people want the macro plan and want the, tell them exactly what to eat, it can be done.
Yes.
But, it really depends on what the client wants.
Yeah.
So, usually as you said, the easiest way would be just to stop eating processed food and stop eating carbs. That will be eat green veggies, eat lean meats, or eat whole meats and fats. That's it.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cardio.
I think the other ones we've already answered them.
Yeah, we're good to go. Beautiful. All right. Hold on. Thoughts of failure of traditional attempts at weight reduction.
Okay. Yeah. That's from Ken Atkins. He's from KetoGains. Well, I'm gonna tell my little story. I was overweight as a kid, very overweight. I think you've seen my fat kid pictures, and mostly I think my failure was because I was eating whatever they told me to eat. My dietitians, they just told me eat this, and then I did ate what they told me, but they never explain me about quantities, qualities of food. So I just exchanged one food for the other, and I kept eating a lot. So I think one of the biggest failures in traditional nutrition right now is that they are not really pushing whole foods.
No, they're pushing consumerism all the way.
Exactly. They're just like, if you look at Coca-Cola right now, they just go and say, it doesn't matter if you drink one Coke, just go and run 1 mile more. Yeah. So what happens is like you have all the people doing cardio, all the cardio bunnies, as we talked before. I've been going to the same gym for almost 8 years now. I know all the people there in the gym, and I see them every year. They look the same or worse, and they're eating less, and they're doing more time on the treadmills.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because that's what we're told to do.
Exactly. They think that they have to do 15 more minutes on the treadmill because they ate one more kind of Coke. It's not going to work you're better off drinking less or leaving that fruit, that extra orange or orange juice and not eating it, than doing 20 minutes more on the treadmill. So it just eat whole unprocessed food. It does not matter really if it's keto or not. Just eat nutrient-dense food, eat whole protein, and you should be fine.
Awesome. Yeah, and going back to the traditional attempts at weight loss, Spencer Nadolski, he just joined KetoGains, jumped on that group a little bit. He's worked with Precision Nutrition. He's a brilliant individual, and he just did an article of fat shaming and like how everyone's like, oh, if you're obese, then it's lazy, it's a choice. And yeah, it is a choice, But a lot of, like, one of my clients, like, he didn't know how he got there. You know what I mean? Like, he had a lot of big events in his family life and a couple other things, and a lot of other clients too who end up 100 pounds plus. It's just major events. They just can't, they're not ready for the stress. A lot of other things happen, and all of a sudden they end up at that weight. It's not like they saw it coming. It's just one day they looked in the mirror and bam. And it's true. People are so unaware sometimes, and that's what I try to teach mainly in my coaching, of all the motivation and all the nutrition. It's just awareness is what I'm trying to teach the most of. But following those traditional things and being fat shamed and saying eat less and move more, that's the answer. That's farthest from the answer. The real answer is optimize everything. Put your full 100% effort into the best foods. Put your full 100% effort into a good coach. Put your full 100% effort into good workouts. Those three things will kick ass no matter what. That's traditional. That's what everybody who's been doing it and has been working that's traditional. Traditional, by media standpoints, is what they're saying is traditional to get you thinking that, oh, you need to do this because everyone's been doing this. But that's all marketing. They want you to read. They want you to read. They want you to keep reading. And they think that if you see results and you see it from that book, you're probably going to stop reading that book because you got what you wanted. So they'll keep that cycle going around and keep you a reader, keep you a consumer, keep you eating the shit from Kellogg's. And then, yeah, you'll just end up being fat. And if you can get out of that, get out of the carb fog, jump into ketosis, improvise, and improve just everything in your life, you'll see results no matter what. So don't hold back. Just kick ass. What do you got to say about that?
Well, yeah, stop believing in the Kellogg's Institute. No, really, here in Mexico, we have all the major radio programs are sponsored by the Kellogg's Institute, and we have these big races. Everyone is jumping on the triathlons and marathons and everything, and then you go and you see them. All my friends are running 5, 10, 12 miles. You look at them and they look like skinny fat or just fat, and then why are you doing this? To improve my physique. Well, you don't need to do that.
No.
You don't need to drink the two sugar. You don't need to drink that orange juice in the morning. You don't have to drink to eat that protein bar, or you don't have to eat that Kellogg oat bran that they're pushing you to eat. Just have 3 eggs in the morning, or don't have breakfast. Don't worry about it. It's not important. The most important meal of the day, as we've been told for years and years and years. Breakfast is the first meal of your day. It does not have to be at 7 a.m. in the morning.
Yep.
So don't worry about it. Just eat whole foods again and again.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, that's it.
Yeah.
That was a success.
Yeah, we got it.
We're recorded the whole time.
Now it's recorded.
All right, brother. I'm cutting out. 3, 2. Oh, where can everyone find you on KetoGains? Anything else you want?
No, just let's keep doing this.
Yep. We're gonna do another installment. We covered them, so if you guys give us more questions, we can get to it Wednesday. I think we'll probably try to pop them out bi-monthly. This was good.
Yeah, awesome.
Awesome, brother. All right, I'm cutting it. 5, 4, 3, 2. Peace.